Welcome to Junior Makers, everybody. My name is Kim. I am a community learning specialist with DoSpace, and today we are making these fun pneumatic moving monsters. So you should be able to see it on your screen. We have the one I made right here. So if you are new to Junior Makers, it is a program that we hold on Wednesdays, and every month is a different theme that we kind of do STEAM-based making projects. And yeah, so today we are making this really fun pneumatic moving monster. So how it works is you can see that we have kind of this syringe connected to some tubing, and when I press down on the plunger, it should, there we go, move up and down. If I bring it back out, his little mouth should go down. Perfect. It's so good when things work the way you want them to do, right? Yeah, so this is what we're going to be making today. So, but you might be wondering first, like, what does pneumatic mean? What does a pneumatic mean? Here's a picture. That's just another picture of what we are making today, same little guy. But yeah, like I said, what does pneumatic mean maybe to, because before I really researched this project, I did not know what pneumatic meant. So it might be a new word for you as well. And pneumatic means it's basically the energy from compressed air or gas to make something move. And so you can see in with our tube, all in here, and basically this part of the tube, you can see that my plunger goes down to right about here, and then all of that is air, and then all in this tube is air, and then underneath there is another kind of syringe tube. And so whenever the air that's kind of trapped in between the end of our plunger and then basically in our tube to the other side of our tube, all of that is just like basically compressed air, right? Or it's at least trapped air. So whenever I press down on one side, you can see how the plunger on the other side pops up, and then vice versa, because the air that was trapped is pushing it up. So, and then if I pull back, see if I can do this for you to see. If I pull back, it's pulling, and might be a little bit harder. It should kind of pull back, and that air should go down and the mouth closes. So it's just using compressed air. So you might be familiar with the word hydraulic. Like a hydraulic system is a very similar system, only instead of using compressed air, it's using compressed water or liquid. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely put water in one tube and then have the water kind of be the pressure, being the substance that is pressurized and making our monster move up and down. And then this would be a hydraulic system. But since we are using air or gas, it is a pneumatic system. So that is what that means. So what are the things that we need to get started? So you are gonna need a few things. And so one of the first things you are gonna need is you are gonna need some paper. And I've been using some just colorful copy paper. You can use, I would bet cardstock would be really good to use, but I really like this colorful copy paper that I have. So I have some colorful copy paper. You are going to need some tape, and I just have some painter's tape that I really like to use because it's sticky enough to get the job done, but not so sticky that if I need to readjust, it doesn't like tear my paper. So I like using painter's tape. You are going to need a glue stick, handy glue stick. You are going to need a pair of scissors. Got my pair of scissors. You are also going to need something sticky like a glue dot. So I have some glue dots here. I'll kind of explain what these are in a little bit if you're not familiar. Basically, they're little pads of glue. It's kind of hard to tell with this glare, but I'll kind of do a close-up a little bit later when we're using them. But they're basically little pads of glue that you can get at any kind of craft shop. And then the most important thing that you're definitely going to need are a couple of kind of syringes. So I'm kind of disabling my one that I just had. So these are, there we go. Nope. These are just like the type of syringes that you might get at like a pharmacy, or if you have like any, like if you've had any younger siblings that are babies, or if you've ever had to maybe, I don't know, give your cat or dog some medicine, oral medicines in their mouth, you might get some of these. You can kind of see how I'm pushing these back and forth with the compressed air. And so you'll just need 2 of these. These are basically they're 2 10 milliliter, but you can use bigger ones as well. It might even be, I know that they make 20 mil. It might even, I had 2 10 millimeters around my house. So I just found these around my house, thankfully. And so, but I think if I had 110 and 120, that would work really good as well. And then this is just like some plastic tubing. And thankfully this plastic tubing easily fit over the tip. I'm just gonna get this off. There we go. Over the tip of my syringe. So this is just some plastic tubing or PCV tubing that you would be able to get. You can get this offline. You can get it at like a, a hardware store or something like that. And I actually wrote a blog that's on dospace.org, and that kind of links to different sources that you can get some of these materials. Because I'm thinking you probably have most of this stuff, except for maybe if the only things you might not have might be the tubing potentially and the syringes. And I'm going to give some other thing like options for like our glue dots and whatnot. But this is basically all you need for our fun moving monster that you need to make. So let's get started. So I'm going to remove some of my things, and I'm going to start out with our piece of paper. And the first thing you are going to want to do is we are going to fold it first. So what you're going to do is, you always kind of have, this is just a regular, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And I have my short side this way, my long side. I'm going to fold it on the long side. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to kind of fold it on the long side so the 2 short ends meet up. So we're folding it on the long side so our short ends meet up, and then we're going to turn it, and you're going to do the same exact thing. You are going to fold it on the long side so your 2 short ends meet up. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So you're going to get kind of like a little booklet just like that. And so we are going to need to find the corner. So obviously we have our 4 corners, and we are going to be looking for the corner that has the 4 separate corners of our main, when it was all one big sheet. So we have the 4 corners of our little booklet, but then these are the 4 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4 of our sheet of paper. And so we are looking for this corner specifically, the one with the 1, 2, 3, 4 separate corners of our sheet of paper. And this is where you can get a little bit creative. So you can kind of see in my picture, we are going to cut off the corner of this specific corner. But you don't have to do it just straight across. You could do it just straight across, but you don't have to do it just straight across. You can see in my picture that I did a zigzag. I also have, like in my example, you can kind of see this, the cutting of the corner is going to make this design. So you can kind of see on either side. This one is a little bit curvy because I cut the corner curvy. So, and then this is an example of the corner when the corner is cut like a zigzag. This is another one I made. So you can see how the zigzag. So I'm going to cut mine actually a little bit curvy. So in this, you can get really creative. You don't have to, or you don't have to cut it at all, or you can cut it straight across. It's whatever. So I'm going to kind of make mine a little bit kind of a funny, funky, curvy design, just like that. And then I have these 4 scraps. I'm going to keep these scraps because these are really good to like decorate with after you are done. making, like kind of building the mechanics of your machine, of your moving monster. So I'm going to keep these. I'm going to put these just over in the corner. And then what we are going to do is we are going to open up our guys. So this is now kind of what our little monster is going to look like, right? And so this is kind of made the mouth, and so I've made the mouth a little bit curly. For me, it kind of looks like a funky snake a little bit. So yeah, so this is kind of how mine looks when I made it curvy. But again, you can make it zigzaggy, you can make it straight across. You can do whatever you like. And then but the next thing we need to do is we need to cut a tab. So you can see how I have my open side over here, but we're going to cut a tab on the folded side. So we have my folded side right here, and I need to cut, you can kind of see in my picture, we need to cut 2 slits along the folded side. But you can kind of see right here, here's my middle. That's that was my second fold to make a little booklet. This is my fold. We need to make it on either side of our fold, and we need to do it for about 1 inch in. It doesn't have to be perfect, but maybe like a 1/2 inch from the fold, whatever, 1/4 inch, something like that. And then we're just going to cut. You can kind of see how I've then cut a slit, 2 slits on either side of my fold. Again, it doesn't have to be super perfect. And we are going to do, and then we're going to open up. And what we're going to do, you can kind of see if we open it up, you can kind of, it doesn't really matter. We're going to go this way. But we can actually like put our finger right underneath if you wanted to. You can kind of see it makes like a little tent, that little slit. And what we need to do next is just cut across. You can kind of see like this is where my cuts ended on either side. You just need to cut across where your cuts ended on either end. It doesn't really matter. I could do it on this side, I can do it on this side, but I'm just gonna cut across so that I have this little flap. And this is how we know which side is your top and which side is your bottom. So you can kind of see, so if I fold back up our little monster mouth, this side where we don't see the flap, or we can see the tab, but we don't see the cut side, this is gonna be our top. And if I turn it upside down, we can see that this side is cut, right? This is our tab, this is the bottom. And so this is gonna be our bottom. And this is under the underside is where one of our syringes is going to go. So it's the side with the kind of the cut tab guy. So you can see, we don't see it up on the side, but we can. So this is the bottom and this is your top. And then we're going to open up our piece of paper one more time, and we are going to make 2 cuts. And this time we on either side. And this time we're actually going to cut along the fold. And it doesn't have to be perfect again. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut about halfway into where our tab is. So about halfway to where those tab cuts are on either side. And again, they don't have to be perfect. This is just going to allow for a little bit of customization as well. So I'm just going to cut about halfway and do that on either side, just like that. Boom. So you can see how I have my cut on that side, cut on that side. I'm going to fold it back in half, and you can see this is my top and this is my bottom. Okay. Oh my goodness. And so the reason why we cut those little side tabs is because it allows us to make little folds. And this, again, like I said, kind of gives a little bit more customization. So I'm just going to fold these either side up. And this allows, so if you wanted to, because this is our bottom, right? If you wanted to, you could fold the, you know, kind of this flap in. I'm going to fold it inward towards the slit, and I'm going to do the same on this side, inward towards the slit. And then I'm going to do the top one outwards towards the top. So now it kind of makes a little bit more custom. Or if you wanted to, on the bottom side, you could actually even do it like towards the bottom. And then if you had, you probably saw at the very, whenever I was kind of going over the slide that had the slide that had all the materials, you probably saw like a piece of cardboard. I don't have that here, but if you wanted to, you could use these tabs to glue down on that piece of cardboard just to keep it in place. You don't have to, but that's kind of where that comes into. If you wanted to, you could just glue the tab right here with your glue stick and then glue them down on that piece of cardboard if you want to. Or you could do it, you know, really, again, these tabs are just so you can kind of customize it. So I might fold it again. So our little monster has a few more folds to it. Again, so optional, you can do whatever you like. And then what we need to do is we're going to turn it upside down so you can see. So again, this is our bottom. You can see the hole. I guess that's an easier way too. You can see the, you know, the other side. And this is where we are going to glue our, glue and tape down our syringe. So you are going to need then your syringe with your pipe. I already have my little tube on mine. I'm going to keep it on there. It just makes it a little bit easier. And if you had, again, both my syringes are the 10 milliliter. But if you had a bigger one, like a 20 mil, I would still keep, or if you had like a 10 milliliter and a 20 milliliter, I would still use the 10 milliliter on this bottom part. And so what we're going to do, you want to kind of arrange it. So you want to make sure that this is your syringe, right? Our syringe, you want to make sure your syringe is all the way down. That you can't press any further. And so you want to line it up in the middle. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to glue the top part of our plunger to this little tab right here. And we're going to be doing that with our glue dot. So like I said, I have our glue dot, I have glue dots with me, and I like these because they're just, like I said, they're like little pads of glue. Let me show you. There, I think you should be able to see that. So that you can see there's that little circle. It's just like a little pat of like almost dried glue. Like if you kind of think of it like a little pat of butter, it's a little pat of glue. And the nice thing about it is that they come on these like little sheets of plastic, and you can peel them. You can peel the plastic from like the backing. This is like the backing of it. And you can place the glue dot where you want. So I'm going to place it on the end of my plunger. Just kind of press it down. And the nice thing about it is you can kind of just like peel them back. Sometimes, depending on the surface, this surface is not wanting to stick on my surface as well, but you can kind of just peel it back, which is nice. But you could also use, if you wanted to, if you had like this, you know, like 3M, if you've ever hung anything with like those 3M hooks, if you had like a double-sided sticky pad or sticky foam, you could do that. If you wanted it to be more, I guess, durable and last longer, you could absolutely use a glue gun, things like that. So you don't have to use, if you have other options, you don't have to go out and buy these. If you use a glue gun, you use like, yeah, dual-sided sticky tabs, things like that. But I'm just going to press that tab right onto the end of my plunger, just like that. Oop. And then I'm just going to put a few pieces of tape across my plunger just to keep it in place. So I have my painter's tape. And again, you don't have to use painter's tape. If you have Scotch tape, that works just fine as well. You do not have to use just painter's tape. Like I said, I like it because like I sometimes can get a little funky with my taping, so it allows me to re-stick as needed. You can do one or two, whatever you'd like. However, you know, again, kind of depends on how sturdy you want to make your monsters. I'll do a second piece just to keep it in place, just like that. And then here's probably where you would want to, if you had that piece of cardboard and you wanted to, you could glue that down on your piece of cardboard. I don't have that with me today. I feel like I don't always need it, but it's always just an option if you wanted to. And then this is where you can add your second plunger onto the other end of your plastic tubing. So this is what I have found. So like I said, I have two 10 milliliters, and I have found it works best if so you can kind of see, this is if my plunger was all the way down, and this is what this was what it would look like if it was all the way up. You definitely need your plunger up a bit, but I have found that you don't want it all the way to the very end like this. You can kind of see how that's all the way to the top. I have found that it works better if your plunger is about halfway down. So before, and this is before, you want to adjust this before you put it on your tube. And so I found that maybe halfway, maybe a little, like if we were doing milliliters, you would want it maybe at the 6 milliliter. And this is because I found that if I put it all the way top, or to the very top, when I press down, all that air just whooshes into our other syringe, and the mouth just goes whoop, and it just opens way too much. And so I found that if you do it about a little more than halfway, so about 6 mil, it is the perfect amount. And so basically, if we're thinking about the science behind this, we are adding you can see our plungers all the way down, so there's no air at the end of this tube, right? Or at the end of this syringe. There's no air because it's all been pressed out basically by our plunger. So then what we're going to do is, like, any air that's in our tube, when we connect it to our other syringe, so we have all the air that's now trapped in our tube, plus we have the air that is filling up right here. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe you might think, well, like, air doesn't weigh anything, but it still has mass. It still has, it's not, oxygen, even though we can't see it, we breathe it, right? It's still something, right? It has mass. And so because, even though we don't see it, it's very, very light, they're still stuck in our syringe and in our tubing. So again, if we need to test it, we should, if our press down on our syringe, ooh, there it goes. It pops right up. Very nice. And then, so you can kind of see how this side then, because all of the air, now that our syringe has pressed all of that air out into the tube, that air has nowhere to go other than into this tube, right? Into this syringe. And so, and vice versa. So if I press down, well, actually, I'm not going to press down on this side. I'm not going to press down on this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull back out. And it should, because it's going to then suck the air back that was pressed into this syringe. It's going to suck it back into this syringe and close. Now, sometimes it doesn't work perfectly, or sometimes it takes a little bit for it to go down and kind of suck back in. But it should, and you might have to adjust a little bit. Oh, you can see how but yeah, for the most part, it should work. There we go. And so this is how the power of air can make a pneumatic moving monster. And so basically that is it when it comes to making the actual, like, mechanics of it, right? But this doesn't look too much like a monster. I think we need to do some adjustment, right? I think our monster needs some teeth. And so I have another sheet of paper. So this is like a half sheet, and we are going to make some teeth. So what I do is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this in half the long way, right? And then with my scissors, so I have, this is my open side, this is my folded side. Along my folded side, I'm going to cut some zigzags. So I'm not going to go all the way back to my fold. I am just going to zigzag a little bit all the way across, just kind of down the middle of this sheet of paper. And now I have 2 sets of teeth, just like that. So now I have my 2 sets of teeth. So this is what I'm going to use for the teeth of my monster guy. But first what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold one side, not all the way in half. I'm not going to fold it in half. I'm just going to fold it maybe about 1/4 inch. So down. So it just makes a tab. We're just trying to make a tab. You want to do that on both of them. Just make a little tab. Because this is where we're going to glue. This is what this tab, see that I just folded, that tab is where we're going to glue our teeth onto our monster. But man, these teeth look pretty big for my monster, right? They don't seem to quite fit the mouth. The teeth are too long for the mouth. Well, I have a fix for that as well. So what you're going to do is, what you can do is kind of measure a little bit, and then you're just going to cut the tab, not the whole thing. You're not going to cut the whole thing. You can see I'm just going to cut from the end to the tab. It's that little, just right there on both sides. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. But then if I fold those in, see how they round out? And it allows for the teeth to kind of round into the mouth. So let me show you. I'm going to take my handy dandy glue stick. I'm going to put some glue along this tab that we just made, right? Handy glue stick. Okay. And then all you have to do is glue that down. But see, because we snipped that tab, the teeth just kind of round into the mouth. See how that works? So now our teeth fit into our mouth. And because we have 2, you can do that to both. Oh, that's our excess. But yeah, I can do the same thing for the bottom. Just do those little snips from the end of our tab to the fold. So you can see how that rounds. Do the same thing. Just give that a good glue. On those tabs, and then I'm not allowing this to dry very well, but you get the point, you get the idea. And so then you can do the same thing with these teeth. Glue those down, glue, 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 glue. Press that down. And then our monster has some teeth. And so I bet you don't remember, but I have these excess pieces, right? You can do the same thing basically and use these as like eyes. If you fold down, make that little tab, you can glue a tab here, glue that tab, and maybe you want to glue on some eyes. So you can do that as well. Or this is where you can get super creative, because this is where you can, if you have any kind of craft items around the house, you don't have to use the paper. You can use whatever you like. Maybe you have foam or palms, googly eyes, some pipe cleaners. I mean, really, the possibilities are endless when it comes to decorating your monster to make it look crazy. And if I had a marker, forgot to bring a marker with me, but if I had a marker, I might put 2 little dots there to make it look like he has eyes. So yeah, so this is just kind of the general idea, but you can see how now I press down, his mouth goes up, and then when I press up on the syringe, his mouth comes down a little bit. There we go. So then you have a pneumatic moving monster. And the cool thing about it is once you kind of get the idea and the science behind this, you can use pneumatics to really make anything move, right? There's so many different craft ideas that you can do to make different moving machines. And maybe if you want to kind of step up the difficulty, you try out with water. I mean, so it might be a little bit messier, but see how water works out. Does it work better? Does it work worse? I don't know. That's a good experiment to do. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me to making our fun pneumatic moving monsters. Keep all of our fun videos for kids and adults are on our YouTube at our Do Space YouTube page. And keep an eye out for our summer make-along and summer STEAM challenge videos as well that get posted on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday. Well, excellent. Well, I'm glad you guys joined me tonight. I hope you join us again for another fun webinar. We'll see you next time.